So this part, I've used burnt umber, cerulean blue, cadmium red light, and titanium buff to highlight. So I did 2 layers. The first one is cerulean blue and burnt umber, and I just dabbed with a round brush, the brush stroke, dabbing, just like that. And then the second layer, I just added a bit of cadmium red light to get that reddish color right here. And now I'm going to start highlighting. So I'm going to take titanium buff, put it in that mixture of burnt umber and cerulean blue right here. And I'm going to highlight slowly. So same, this is a round brush. And all I'm doing is I am dabbing and moving my brush. Just dab it, dab your, to give it that texture that we see in there. Now we don't have to do a lot. Now I'm going to add a bit more, just a bit more of the titanium buff in that mixture, because it's going to dry darker. Back and forth. If you're dabbing, or if the texture is too light, just add a bit of burnt umber over it. Now I'm just going to take a bit of burnt umber and then just soften this here. Now let's take titanium buff one more time. Bit of cerulean with burnt umber and titanium buff. Now I'm just going to come here and see. It's good. I will highlight it slowly. I'm always careful how much highlight I put. I like to highlight several, put many layers of highlight, you know, slowly, than having one layer that's very strong. Okay. Again, oops. Again, I think it will help if I just.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. No. Okay. Let's highlight the bottom part a bit, and over here. Red. So I'm going back and forth into these highlighted areas. This part is really dark and it's more bluish. So I'm going to try to mix burnt umber and cerulean and try to see if we can get this. Okay. That's good enough. Wipe my brush. I'm going to take a bit of white because this titanium buff is not strong enough, and I'm going to mix it with titanium buff and some water, so it's more like a glaze. And I'm just going to come here. Oh, that's better. I don't know, but I don't like this detail at the bottom.
Yeah, me too.
I don't like it.
I don't understand it.
Yeah. All right, that's okay. That's okay.
Is it just an etch in this in the fork, or is it actually an indicate indent, like I don't know if it's indented or just
Yes,
on
it's
top?
indented. It is indented.
Oh,
Yes.
it is. Well,
Yes.
can you imagine all the stuff that gets stuck in there then? Just saying, like that's kind of odd,
Yeah.
or it's
Well-
just embossed on top. I don't know. It's kind of, it's
I don't
odd.
know.
What
Yeah,
would
it
you
is.
have done?
Maybe, yeah, maybe these are really like, we gotta look them up. Maybe they come from, you know, a different era.
They look like they're antique kind of.
Yeah, yes, yes.
All right. So, yeah. Well, that's okay. It's not a big deal.
No,
We can. So this is now titanium buff.
Where's she working?
In his office.
Ooh,
Well, why is the office lights
I
off?
can hear Jonathan.
Our office lights are off.
Jonathan, go.
My mama.
Yes, Mama.
Sorry, he can't be alone. He's like always
Mhm.
looking for somebody.
Yes, of course. That's okay. That's all right. So cute. Okay. I think we're okay. All right. So we're going to start working on this spoon. To do this part, which is dark, this part here, I am going to use burnt umber and cerulean blue, because burnt umber with blue, depending on the blue you're using, you will get a nice black. So burnt umber and ultramarine blue, you'll get a beautiful black. Very interesting. And if you put a bit of white, it's a beautiful gray too. Now, cerulean blue is a light blue, kind of a summery blue, or, you know, it's not the same as ultramarine blue. So if you use burnt umber with it, it's not going to be dark. It's not going to go really dark, almost black, like when you use the ultramarine blue. Now, slowly, I'm going to start adding more burnt umber. Some more right here. You know what? Because I want this color to start turning into a slowly into a warm brown right here. Now, touch of red into the burnt umber and titanium buff. Let's see. More titanium buff. More red. Okay. Again, let's go back, adjust a bit. Oh. I'm just adjusting the color because I can see here that when I put sometimes just the burnt umber, it's too red, too warm, and I can see blue in there in the reference. I can see more like a burnt umber that has blue in it. Okay, that's good. Now let's take titanium buff again, mix it with a bit of that mixture of burnt umber and red, and come back here, add more highlights. And a bit more highlights in here. Okay. All right. There's red in here. I don't know why it's not showing, but there's red. Like red and burnt umber and titanium buff.
You can see it a little bit on the edge.
Oh, not enough. Now this is titanium buff with some burnt umber, but there's quite a bit of titanium buff that is mixed with burnt umber and a touch of red. And now all I'm doing is I am kind of dabbing and moving my brush, and it's a round brush, so it's easy to do these this texture. Wet my brush a bit. It's easier when you wet your brush. It's like you're working with a glaze, so much easier. Okay, add a bit of red in here. Just a combination of titanium buff, red, and burnt umber.
You're working with a small bright?
No, round, round, round brush. Now, we want to see this, what we're doing. I'm going to start using now titanium buff, quite a bit of it, of that titanium buff. Put some water in it, make it more like a glaze. Wipe my brush. If you find it really hard to do this with a brush, because it's not easy, use a pencil crayon. But if you have a good brush and the paint is kind of watery, it can be done. Sorry, I have to move this. There you go, John. I have to tilt that canvas too. There. Maybe it's time to get a new brush. Use a new brush or a good brush. Here we go. Let's see. So this is titanium buff with a bit of red and watered down. Now I'm going to adjust the colors in here because I went over them